anger has erupted in several parts of the world. Shia Muslims in different parts of the globe have risen up in protest. They have hit the streets. It was seen in parts of India. It was seen in Iraq. But perhaps the worst images that we have got have come from Pakistan. In Karachi, protests turned violent after people tried to storm. In fact, they stormed the consulate in Karachi. There was firing done by the US security personnel, a US SEAL team that was deployed there. They opened fire at the protesters who had already breached the gates. They had breached the barricades. They were trying to enter the compound of the consulate. They were attacking the guard chamber, what looks like the guard chamber there. In fact, what you're seeing right now is the image from Gilgit-Baltistan. There you had a UN outpost of Unmogip that was set on fire. An army public school in Skardu was also set on fire. It was attacked. So the UN office, one of the military observers group for India and Pakistan that was there in Skardu, was set on fire. But in Karachi, and let's run those visuals of Karachi, there were face-offs that happened on the street, where there were protesters who were trying to get into the green zone. They were trying to storm the consulate. Eventually, tear gas shells had to be fired at them. Similarly, in Baghdad as well, there were protesters who breached the green zone. Several heavy earth-moving equipment were also brought in. And in Karachi, when these protesters were met with fire, at least 9 of them have been confirmed dead. Worrying scenes, and you're seeing protests, although protests which were largely peaceful in India as well. Joining us now on the show to try and understand what happens next, we have Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. We also have Michael Feller, Co-founder and Chief Strategist, Geopolitical Strategy. Dr. Fuad Izadi will be joining us in just a bit, a very senior voice from within Tehran, and Saul Sadka, Security Analyst and author, joins us. But first, I want to go across to Shreya, who joins us from Delhi, where at Jantar Mantar, a place that is earmarked for protests, several people have gathered, apparently in solidarity with Iran. Over to you, Shreya.
Well, Padmaja, a day after the supreme leader of Iran was killed, we can see a shockwave that has been sent all across the country, and people are protesting here at Jantar Mantar. We can see, members from the Shia Council of India who have come here in large numbers, women, men who were raising, slogans. They were protesting, and at the same time, they were also conducting a condolence assembly. Sir, aap hame bataiye, the death of Mr. Khamenei, how does it really affect you and the global politics at this point?
खामनेई साहब की जो शहादत है, ये लगता है कि इमाम हुसैन की शहादत के बाद सबसे बड़ा ये एक इवेंट है, स्थानीय है। एक मतलब निहत्ते मासूम को कत्ल किया गया, ठीक है, जिनकी फॉरेन पॉलिसी, जिनकी अपनी पॉलिसी बिल्कुल मासूमाना थी, ठीक है, और उनके पास जो उनकी यूएसए की स्टेट स्पॉन्सर टेररिज्म है, उसका वो शिकार हो गए।
आप हमें बताइए, आज हम देख रहे थे बहुत सारे औरतें काफी ज्यादा इमोशनल थे, हार्ट ब्रेकिंग विजुअल्स हमने देखे जंतर मंतर से और हमारे देश के कई सारे जगहों में। आप हमें बताइए, आपके लिए ये जो घटना हुई है, जो मिडिल ईस्ट में जो क्राइसिस अनफोल्ड हो रहे हैं, वो कैसे आपको?
देखिए, मैं यही कहना चाहती हूँ कि ये सिर्फ शिया कम्युनिटी के लिए एक नुकसान नहीं है। खामनेई साहब की शहादत जो है वो शियाओं के लिए नुकसान नहीं है, बल्कि हर एक उसके लिए नुकसान है कि जो हक की बात करते हैं, जो इंसानियत की बात करते हैं, जो जुल्म के खिलाफ आवाज उठाते हैं, ये उनके लिए नुकसान है। क्यों? इसलिए क्योंकि जिस वक्त गाजा और फिलिस्तीन के बच्चों पर जुल्म हो रहा था, नाहक खून बहाया जा रहा था, उनकी जमीन उनके पैरों से खींची जा रही थी, तमाम दुनिया खामोश थी। उस वक्त अगर कोई बोलने वाला था तो सिर्फ खामनेई साहब थे, जो आगे आकर कह रहे थे कि मैं हक की आवाज उठाऊंगा, मैं इन बच्चों के लिए लड़ाई करूंगा, मैं फिलिस्तीनियों को हक दिला के रहूंगा, मैं गाजा को हक दिला के रहूंगा। तो ये जो नुकसान हुआ है, ये हक का नुकसान है, ये बेहतरीन आइडियोलॉजी का नुकसान है।
Okay, interesting that we are hearing such voices from at least some pockets of India. Let me take this across to our guest now. What do you make of this, Abhijit? The fact that you've got not just lay people, but even some politicians who have weighed in favor of Iran today.
Well, that's going to be natural. Remember, Iran allows us to play our games in Afghanistan up to a point. The Shia Sunni split was very crucial for us in containing the insurgency in Kashmir. Remember, the insurgency peaked around 87, and the Shia Sunni split had gotten pretty bad by 82, 83. And after the Pandits were kicked out, it was the Shias of Kashmir who got, labeled as mukhbirs, informants of the Indian state out there. And they were helping the security forces contain the insurgency pretty well. Now, we also have to remember that everything that we do in Afghanistan, almost everything we do, is done through Iran. We also need to remember that while the Shias might be the problem population for Israel and Lebanon, in India they are the model minority. They have a very high disposable income, unlike the Sunnis who are at the bottom of the economic ladder. The Dawoodi Bohras and the Ismaili factions of the Sunnis are probably some of the richest communities in India.
Okay.
They've almost transcended identity politics and they vote based on economics. So this is something that was bound to be expected. We will not help the Iranians, but there will certainly be a lot of, public, shall we say, performative grief over the elimination of Khamenei.
In fact, in India, yes, everyone has the right to protest as long as it happens in a peaceful and democratic fashion. And that has been allowed to happen, whether it be in parts of Uttar Pradesh, whether it be in Jammu and Kashmir. And mind you, this is largely, most of these images that you see will come from Jammu and Kashmir, or it will be parts of Ladakh where, in places like Kargil, you've got a large Shia population, or in old city Lucknow. But the truly worrying images, and I want to go back to that, Saul Satka, is what is happening in Pakistan, where whether it be Karachi, whether it be Lahore, you have got American property being attacked. In fact, the latest that we are learning, and this is what Pakistani media itself is reporting, that Shia organizations have asked for a siege of the US embassy in Islamabad. Already in Karachi, you have at least 9 confirmed casualties when the security had to open fire at these mobs which were trying to lay siege to the consulate there.
Yes, well, it does look that Iran is really very limited in its options for retaliation. I'm speaking to you here from Tel Aviv inside a bunker. We were just sent to a bunker a few minutes ago. But the Iranians are not succeeding in getting large numbers of missiles through to Tel Aviv or even to the other Gulf countries. They're really just lashing out and flailing around. And it could be that if all they have is to send some of their co-religionists to attack embassies in Pakistan and get themselves killed, this is really telling you how desperate they are for any kind of modicum of pride, to claw back for some pride from the humiliations that they have suffered over the past 36 hours.
Michael Feller, what does one make of what is happening in Karachi especially? You've got, 9 people who were killed after the US Marine Security component fired at protesters there. The Shias and Hazaras are out on the streets. Even in Skardu, you've got the Army Public School which has been attacked. And here is a country that was talking about America being, the upholder of peace, was literally nominating the US president for a Nobel Peace Prize just about a couple of months ago. And now you've got American property, American personnel being attacked on Pakistan soil.
Yeah, that's right. But remember that the opinion of the military establishment in Pakistan is very different to the opinion on the street. And this isn't the first and it won't be the last time that we see US facilities attacked. We remember only a few years ago, Western restaurants being attacked, KFCs being attacked in Pakistan over various things. So this isn't exactly new, although it's dramatic, certainly. But I would hesitate to link it to Iran's formal response. I see this more as mob behavior. It happens. It will happen elsewhere in the world, I'm sure, before this war is over. The other thing caution about is that this is day 2 of the war. Can anyone remember what day 2 of the Ukraine war looked like, or day 2 of the Iraq war looked like? This thing is going to change. a lot over the next few weeks, not to, if not months or years.
In what way?
Well, we don't know. It depends on how long Iran can survive as a regime, and it depends on how long Mr. Trump can weather a deployment in the Middle East.
Are you suggesting it could drag out just like the Russia-Ukraine war has?
For sure. Well, we had the Gulf War that dragged out for almost 20 years. So, and that was a much smaller country than Iran. So, I'm not saying it will. This could last days or it could last years. We just don't know.
And there is a lot of politics that we are already seeing around this issue. Remember, when it comes to domestic politics, this is an issue that has huge resonance right here in India. And some of the reactions that we've seen, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, in fact, has been a very, very strong advocate for the cause of Palestine. Even earlier, she has carried a back for people of Gaza to Parliament. And today, again, she has spoken out against the actions of US and Israel, where she said the targeted assassination of the leadership of a sovereign nation by the so-called leaders of the democratic world and the killing of multitudes of innocent people is despicable and deserves strong condemnation no matter what the proclaimed reason is. I do hope that having genuflected before the PM of Israel and President Trump, our PM makes every effort to bring all Indian citizens in the affected countries back home to safety. Before I take a reaction from you, Abhijit, about, what do you make of the politics? And I think this is only going to intensify because in a week from now, we will have second part of our budget session of Parliament reconvening. And this is likely to be one of the big issues being spoken of there. But let's listen in to some of the reactions that we got from politicians right here in India to what US and Israel did yesterday.
इंसानियत को नहीं मानने वाले हैं बेंजामिन नेतन्याहू, और जो हमला हुआ ईरान के ऊपर हम उसकी मजम्मत करते हैं। आयतुल्लाह खामेनी की मौत हुई है और मैं इसको इमोरल और अनलॉफुल एक्ट मानता हूं, आयतुल्लाह खामेनी की मौत को।
ये पूरी दुनिया के लिए एक सबक है इस वक्त देखना कि किस तरह एक जो वॉर क्रिमिनल है नेतन्याहू, किस तरह वो अमेरिका का इस्तेमाल कर रहा है, उसको कठपुतली बनाया हुआ है अपना मकसद हासिल करने के लिए, और इसके बहुत ही दूर अंदाज नताइज होंगे खासकर हमारे रीजन के लिए।
शेर को धोखे से मार सकते हैं, आमने सामने लड़ाई में आने की औकात ना इजराइल की है और ना अमेरिका की है। उतर के दिखा दें सड़क ईरान के अंदर, जमीन पर लड़के दिखाएं। टेक्नोलॉजी से मार रहे हो ना धोखे से, जमीन पर लड़ने की औकात इनकी नहीं है।
सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद इस लेवल का उथल पुथल मतलब हमने तो किताबों में पढ़ा था और हम जी रहे हैं और देख रहे हैं, और इसका असर पूरी दुनिया, सिर्फ मैं मिडिल ईस्ट नहीं कह रहा हूं। मेरा तो मानना है कि अगर ये फलाना रेजिम मुझे पसंद नहीं है तो साहब ये पीस मील में मत करो।
Abhijit, what do you make of the kind of political reactions we are getting right here in India, and how big do you think this is going to resonate domestically?
Look, as far as we've seen the protests, they've been large, but they've been peaceful. We haven't seen any violence at these protests. I think it's very important to note that. I think there was some stone pelting in the early morning Srinagar protest, but other than that, they've all been fairly well controlled. Number one, which is classic of Shia protests in this country. I don't know when I saw a violent Shia protest last. Second, I think Ms. Mehbooba Mufti is the last person to comment on this because she had banned the Muharram Ashura procession for the longest period of time. She is the one that had introduced the ban. And when Shias used to take out their procession in Srinagar, they used to get stoned. The police were refusing to protect them from Sunni stone pelters. Let's not forget that. Third, Asaduddin Owaisi has to, posture to his own audience in Hyderabad, because Hyderabad does have a significant, it's not as big as, say, Lucknow or as big as Kargil and Srinagar up north, but it is a significant population of 12 Jafri Shias that live in the old city of Hyderabad, which is his core constituency. Remember, even though the Hyderabad ruling family was Sunni, the main observances, even of that Sunni family, used to be Shia festivals. So it's been a very crucial element of the Hyderabadi identity. He has to posture. But outside posturing, you won't see much.
And it's always
Certainly
been
not
the
kind
usual
of-
suspects, the same people who were on the streets after Yahya Sinwar was killed. Then you've got the same bunch of people, same states, perhaps even the same protesters. They've just changed the posters. So it's usually the usual suspects.
Sorry, quickly.
Yes.
One rather delightful point. I personally feel that Miss Mehbooba Mufti would actually be quite happy by this, because she feels that the biggest supporter of her biggest rival, Omar Abdullah, is a Shia MP from Srinagar, who was largely supported by Ayatollah Khamenei's regime, Ruhollah Mehdi. So she would actually be very, and she has alleged that, lots of Iranian money was coming to him. So she might actually be giggling in private, despite what she puts on in public.
Well, we'll wait to actually hear more from her about, and I don't know, actually, I haven't heard from Omar Abdullah today. I wonder if there's been a reaction
I wonder why, given that he's been elected from a Shia constituency, he hasn't opened his mouth. And it's Ruhollah Mehdi, who is Ayatollah Khamenei's biggest fan in Kashmir, who got him elected from that constituency.
Which is strange. I mean, we haven't heard the Chief Minister speak at all, despite the fact that you have the maximum protests anywhere in India happening in his state. But Saul Sadka, how much do you think that these protests could spread? I'm not talking about India. I'm talking about the kind of things that we are seeing coming out of Baghdad, where there was an effort to try and storm into the green zone. People were marching towards the US consulate, of the kind that we are seeing in Tehran, of the kind that we saw in Pakistan. Could these protests spread? Could this violence spread? I think you've muted yourself. Saul, could you unmute yourself, please?
Apologies, I just came out of a bomb shelter. Yes, so like you said, wherever you have a large concentrations of people that are going to be loyal to the Iranian regime, then you will always have the risk of them acting out in that way and protesting American installations and bases. And after what happened years ago in Benghazi, there's no patience in the United States for any kind of that stuff. So any approach to an installation by people who appear to be perhaps armed or perhaps protesters will be met with force. And that is likely to escalate things. So it's a very tense time all across the region. We have to wait and see if this escalates further.
Okay, in fact, we're just getting an alert that missile and hostile aircraft infiltration alert sirens have been sounded across Israel. Missile sirens and hostile aircraft alerts have been sounded in Jerusalem, Dead Sea, and across central Israel. And I guess, Saul, that's why you yourself were in a bomb shelter. But have things calmed down now? What is the kind of information that you're getting?
Well, so the way it works is you get a notification that tells you that in about 10 minutes you need to be in a bomb shelter. So you make your way to the bomb shelter and you stay there for about 10 minutes and you get out. So far, the Iranians have fired about 300 missiles at Israel. The vast majority, perhaps 250, have been intercepted and 50 have landed, although the vast majority of those 50 have landed in open areas. When a rocket, a missile, is heading for an open area, field, a hillside, it isn't intercepted because the interceptors are expensive and there's no point wasting them to protect a hillside. So the only there's three that hit cities and caused damage. One of them killed 2 people and injured some other people. So of the 300 missiles the Iranians have fired at Israel, they have managed to kill 2 Israeli civilians. So far, this is not what they were hoping for. They really wanted, in their propaganda material, they imagined themselves firing rockets at Israel and destroying cities. But that's really not happening.
But have you seen attacks today as well, or are these only alarms?
So you have the alarms. So the alarms go off, and as soon as the alarms go off, the Israeli Air Force and everyone else involved is working hard to intercept these missiles before they even enter the atmosphere. Usually, so and even some of them enter the Israeli airspace, and then they are shot down by other countermeasures within inside Israeli airspace. So you get 10 minutes notice. They know approximately where the missiles are going to land, although they're not accurate enough even for the Iranians to know what they're really shooting at, which is why they shoot at cities. And often they miss cities by many kilometers. So these are very inaccurate weapons, and they are mostly intercepted.
Okay.
So it seems to be that the Iranians have already fired off in the past 36 hours. They fired off perhaps 20% of their entire stock of missiles. And that 20% of their remaining stock they've managed to kill 2 Israelis and cause a few $1 million worth of property damage. This is something that is tragic to see 2 people die and to see people lose their apartments. But this is not something that poses any kind of strategic threat to Israel. Their missiles are simply not accurate enough to pose any strategic threat in any kind of way at all.
All right. So despite all the warnings,
despite
despite all the threats, you're saying that there is no real strategic threat to Israel as of now. But already Ayatollah Arafi has been chosen as the person who will co-lead the Islamic Republic alongside the president, who is handling, of course, the executive branch and judiciary chief, Ghulam Hussain Mohseni Ejai, who is handling the legal and security apparatus. So together, these 3 men will temporarily be wielding the ultimate authority that was held by Khamenei alone. So at least the succession has now been somewhat decided. You've got a 3-member panel that has now been chosen and named to lead Iran. What do you make of these choices, Abhijit? What do you think of these 3 people and why them?
Look, I think they're scrambling at some level. Is the Israeli point of view, but I think they do have a succession plan worked out. Now, these guys, so far as I can tell, have all been known as hardliners. Ayatollah Khamenei only liked hardliners. He wanted to see to it that his succession would get to hardliners. Now, there was a lot of speculation that his son Mujtaba would be chosen. I don't think so. Maybe while he was alive, he could have coaxed it, but right now, I don't think his presence is around to coax that to happen. And I'm not even sure that he actually wanted Mujtaba to succeed him. I've heard a lot of conflicting stories from ground sources in Iran about his own desire for the son to succeed. The main thing is the supreme leader is elected by the assembly of experts. So these 3 will have very limited powers, almost lame duck in that sense, till the assembly of experts actually nominates the new supreme leader of Iran, number 1. Number 2, it seems quite clear that they have divorced military decision-making from the top echelons of power, because yesterday we saw some fairly spectacular strikes across the Gulf by Iranian forces. And they're clearly not being directed from above, because Khamenei and several other leaders and most of Khamenei's family had also been killed yesterday. So there's clearly some layering of decision making that has happened. Personally, if I had to venture a guess, I'd say we'd see some particularly hardline black sheep candidate emerge from the assembly of experts, precisely because they were aware of how compromised they actually are. If you read the reports of Khamenei's body being dug out, literally within an hour, the photos were given to Netanyahu and Trump to inspect and confirm. Now, that couldn't have happened unless there was complete human penetration of the inner circle. They knew that. They knew there was a significant case of human penetration, and they would have masked whoever they wanted to succeed pretty well.
You know, I think that is a longer and a more fascinating discussion that we should have ahead on the show. Exactly what kind of intelligence exchange was there? How was this entire operation planned? Was there an insider angle as well? Was there a Trojan horse? Was somebody giving real-time intelligence to the US and Israel on the whereabouts of the leadership of Iran? Please stay with me, but because I'm going to quickly go across to Dr. Fuad Izadi, who is the Associate Professor at the Faculty of World Studies in the University of Tehran. He's also an advisor to the Iranian government. Thank you very much, Professor, for speaking to us. First of all, how do you respond to Operation Roar of the Lion as an advisor to the government?
I'm not an advisor to the government. I teach at University of Tehran. And what we see is the fact that United States attacked Iran in June illegally. They attacked Iran again illegally. And Iranian officials have realized that if the cost of attacking Iran is relatively low, these attacks will continue. So the Iranian officials have decided to create enough cost to the United States. They want to change Iran's government. This is what Trump has said, what Netanyahu has said. And this is not acceptable. There was a diplomatic route. We had the Omani foreign minister in Washington I don't know if you saw the interview he had with CBS News. He was saying that an agreement is available, it's possible to reach in 24 hours. And Trump attacked Iran less than 24 hours after that interview. And it's understandable. If you want to change a government, you don't reach a diplomatic agreement with that government. It's foolish policy. It's not going to change. They're not going to be able to achieve that policy goal. But they have killed a lot of people. We have lost. This is Crescent, Red Crescent estimates of yesterday. Over 200 people.
Okay.
140 schoolgirls, little girls. They hit in school. The same way they were hitting schools in Gaza, they're doing the same thing in Iran. We are dealing with the Epstein class. They like to rape American little girls and they like to bomb and kill Iranian little girls.
But what exactly are the options available to Iran now when your entire leadership has been wiped out, when you only have a 3-member interim leadership? Is there really a control and command structure in place?
The constitution of Iran is very clear on this. If the country's leader is not available to function, then the president plus the head of the judiciary plus a member of the Guardian Council will lead the country until the election of the new leader, which will come in just a few days. We have an assembly of experts that choose Iran's leader. These people are elected by the people. So the country will have a leader in the next few years.
But are military strikes also on the table for Iran? The US president has warned against it. He has said that there are going to be even serious consequences if any misadventure is attempted by Iran, then there will be hell to pay.
You know, we got worse a couple of days ago. This cannot get any worse. The only thing that can stop the genocidal people like Trump is heavy American soldiers' casualties. And this is what they are going to get. There is no other option. There was a diplomatic option. They refused to have an agreement. There was an agreement. He left the agreement in 2018. Yeah, so they don't want to do diplomacy. They want to fight. And if they want war, they will get war. They started the war. Iran will finish it.
Are you saying that there will be a military escalation?
Escalation came from the other side. Iran is defending itself.
Okay, you know, US and Israel have said that this is the people's will and now a dictatorial regime is going to be replaced with a people's government. And, you know, there were also pictures that we've seen through the day today where there were people of Iran who were celebrating on the streets, not just in your country, but in the US, in Europe.
That's a very foolish thing to say. You just have to look at the pictures. Millions of people came to the streets under bombardment. This is very strange. This is the culture of resistance that Iranians have. Under bombardment in a number of cities, millions and millions of people came to mourn the country's leader. I think you have seen the pictures. We have some people in London and United States celebrating. These are Pahlavi people. They want to bring back the Shah's son. There was a revolution in 1979 kicking out his father because his father was one of the most corrupt rulers of the 20th century. He stole $20 billion when he left Iran, and he was number one in political prisoner torture. His father was a fascist. His grandfather was a fascist. He's a fascist. He went to Israel 2 times in the middle of genocide. Iranians' IQ is no less than the average IQ internationally. They understand who Trump is. They understand who Netanyahu is. They don't want to be foot soldiers to these war criminals.
All right,
they got foot soldiers in Pahlavi, but I don't want to say his popularity is less than 1% because that would be too much.
All right, you know, I think in a while we're also expecting a briefing by the IDF. We're going to cut across to Aditya Raj call for that in just a second. But before that, Professor, you know, this operation itself, do you suspect that there was any local involvement? How did the Mossad and US get such precise intelligence about the location of the Ayatollah and other people?
They are good at killing people. They have been doing it for many decades. They have a lot of experience. Israelis have been assassinating free people of the world for many decades now. They know how to kill people. That thing you can tell. You know, they know how to do genocide as well.
All right, thank you very much, Professor, for speaking to us.